Hi YouTube. The reason why I'm making this video is for people that are actually dealing with challenges of completing tasks that you set forth for yourself, and somehow you feel like sometimes God will is not for that task to be completed for you, and sometimes that is the case. Sometimes completing a task is against God's will, but there the way that you know that a task is against God's will or for God's will. One thing about God, God sends confirmation. It's not just gonna be just done any kind of way. He's gonna send confirmation if something is against His will or something is against what He wants for your life. With other things, you guys are going to notice that there is no confirmation given. That's usually your enemy. As long as you're doing good to produce good fruit, everything that opposes you is your enemy. That's Satan. That's everything that's unclean, everything ungodly, everything that don't want your life to prosper. And that's how you will know. As long as it's a good deed and it's doing good for yourself, for your family, people around you, and it does not harm anybody, the opposing party is Satan or an unclean spirit. It's not you. So you have to wake up to that and everything. This morning I started off reading, I read Genesis 1 through 3 and Matthew's 1 through 3. I used the YouTube Mark Dennis, his YouTube to somewhat assist me in this, because I noticed when I started to read, I started having problems, vision, pronunciation, just going blank and stuff like that. So I kind of had to use assistance because I know it is not Satan's will for my prosperity, or it is not other people's will for my prosperity and for this to be spoken over my life, ministry, or whatever the case may be. So there will always be delays. I will say, in your handicap, we were all born handicapped. I would say that. And I can't even say we were born this way. I know for a fact that other things were done to us to cause us to have these forms of handicap and disabilities. But anyway, um, I can say, despite the odds, you can overcome it, and do what you have to do for yourself. I remember seeing people, and you'll see them with no hands and they use their feet, and they be awesome, you know, and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, that's an amazing thing. They use their feet to write and everything because they overcame that obstacle the best way they could. They didn't just lay there handicapped. This is something that Satan wants us to do, just sit there handicapped and not push forth. I mean, he will do everything that he can to stop us. And I mean, these are some amazing people. If you have any form of disability, whether it's mental, physical, emotional, whatever disabilities you have, and you are fighting and overcoming them, you are a amazing and awesome person. Don't let anyone tell you any difference, whether it's educational. I know a lot of times a lot of us have educational disabilities and stuff like that. Do not let that stand in your way. A lot of times our potential are limited because of other people, not because of who we were predestined to be. Sometimes people drop out of school because they're having more problems with education. I will sit up there and I will tell you, when you have those problems with education, it is not you, it's your enemy. You were predestined for so much more, and that was the way that your enemy tried to stop you. That is your destiny. Education is your destiny. It didn't come easy. You have to fight for that which is yours, because they don't want you to have what is intended for you. So if you're dealing with an educational disability, or you just feel like, look, man, I'm not really getting school, it's a little bit slow for me, or whatever, or you going through so many trials while you're in school, or you're just going through trials while you're just trying to live your life, it's not your fault. It's them. That is not your fault that you're going through those trials. It's your enemy trying to prevent you from reaching your full potential, your destiny, what God has called for your life. And they will do any and everything to prevent your prosperity. So be mindful of that. Keep that in your head. Keep it in your mind. My enemy don't want me to prosper, but I have to push forth anyway, and stuff like that. I can honestly tell you, when I was reading in Matthews, and John set up there, in, I think that was Matthews 3, where he said, the axe is at the tree, ready to be cut down. Any tree that brings forth ungood, any tree that doesn't bring forth good fruit. And remember what I told you: if the tree brings forth one good fruit, that is a good tree. But any tree that brings forth no good fruit is a corrupt tree, and stuff like that. So the axe is already at the bottom of the tree, ready to chop it down and dispose of it, because the tree cannot bring forth good fruit. And you got to remember, John went to prison preaching this. John went through all out trouble. You can imagine being thrown into prison for nothing, just because you told a person to look, what you about ain't nobody for. Can you imagine being thrown into prison because your point of views and your views about how things are supposed to be conducted is totally different from someone else? And these are the things that are now facing our people at this time. It's not that your words are void, it's not that your ministry is void, it's not that you are void. It's the fact that you can't really receive what's yours. And don't be fooled by what you see. When you seen those prison gates open for John, that was God's way of showing John that this is illumination. This is not really what it's supposed to be. You can win several different battles. I know personally in my life, I have won in court so many different battles, and yet and still my eyes didn't allow me to see my victory. So don't be mad because you're not allowed to see your victory. It gets like that sometimes, and I guess God had to, I wouldn't even call it God. I guess the situation had done got so out of control with me not being able to see my victory, that I was shown my victory. And it's sad because it had done prolonged for so long of me thinking that pretty much I hadn't won, that my enemies was reigning over me and stuff like that. And it was just, it was meant to be, and it was like an intervention where I was shown, no, your enemies didn't reign over you, you know thrown well, I was working in corrections, and I know I told you guys this before, where I was working in corrections, and everything just gates just fell before me. You know what I'm saying? It just fell down before me and stuff like that. And next thing I know, I was blanked out and I was on the ground. Um, but these type of things happen. Just know that the anointing of God is with you. Just know that you have to keep moving forth. It's not God. He has not abandoned you. It's your enemy showing you that they are victorious, showing, trying to convince you that they have reigned over you, trying to convince you that they have done some stuff for you. It's illumination, it's Illuminati, it's illumination to try to convince you that you're not where you're supposed to be, that you're not at the level that you're supposed to be at. And truth be told, you are there. You right where you need to be. You're doing everything that you have to do, but you're getting caught up in the illusion that you're not where you're supposed to be. I remember even in you reading Genesis 3 or whatever the case may be, where guys, they said there, and hold up, I think that was 2, or no, it's 3. In the day that ye eat of this tree, he knows that your eyes will be open and you will know good and evil and everything. But it also say, ye shall surely die. There was not a discrimination about the death. You know that you're going to die, but you will know good and evil. Your eyes will be open to good and evil. You will know what is taking place and stuff like that. And sometimes, that death is sometimes emotionless. You can't move. You can't sit up there and really deal with what's taking place, and you're being abused. You're going through so many different things. But at the same time, I will tell you that to have that knowledge is a great thing. But when it was completed and it was all said and done, God say, man has become as one of us, to know good and evil, to know right from wrong, to know what to do. A lot of our eyes are closed and we are not aware of all the evil that's taking place. I don't know why that takes place, but I would say it's a foolish state of mind to me. But a state of mind, nevertheless, I guess that's God's way of protecting us from evil. I sit back and I looked at certain things that's being said, like one movie, I think it was Free Man or Free Guy, something like that, and just all out, the whole world was just destroying before him, and he's just walking around like ain't nothing going on. Like everything is perfect. Everybody else is seeing hurricanes and look, it's dark out there. Ain't nobody going out there in the pure darkness, and this man's just walking out in pure darkness, walking out in certain stuff that people like, you got to be out your mind. I'm not gonna walk in that mess, type stuff. But yeah, on the movie it was something totally different. On the movie it was bombs blowing up, cars blowing up, and everything like that. And he was walking out in this and stuff like that. And it's just God's way of saying that he's just going to protect you, or whatever the case may be, despite the situation. These blinders were put on so that you wouldn't have to worry about some of the evil things that are taking place in this world. And there is a lot of evil people, um, a lot of evil things. People have declared themselves for Satan and stuff like that, have devoted themselves to Satan, begin to worship Satan, and stuff like that. So Satan gifted them with certain things, and they have chose their lifestyle. I always tell people, choose your path and choose it wisely. Every decision that we make will affect us now or later. It can either put us back in that blind state, or it can actually free and liberate us where we can see clearly and stuff like that, especially when you have opened up an entity. I will tell people this, a lot of times we open up business, open up entities, open up all these different things and stuff like that, not being fully aware that these, in opening up businesses, and doing certain things, you have to be careful, because every decision you make can affect you. You treat somebody wrong, and acting a fool with people for no reason or whatever, it can affect you. It will be considered as you did not have probable cause. I will tell you something about when you deal with your enemy. You don't want your enemy to keep being around you. Don't ever let that continue to happen. You must separate yourself from your enemy. You can't prosper with your enemy around you. You can't prosper with your enemy connected to you. This is something that your enemy will always try to do. They will try to connect to you, try to put you in the house of somebody else. You want to be by yourself, because God is dealing with you. Plus you're facing the battle of trying to fight off evil possession, evil spirits, unclean spirits, ungodly spirits, lustful spirits, and these lustful spirits, they lust after the most diseasing and craziest things. It starts small with stuff that isn't diseased, but at the same time it elaborates to something that is diseased. So you really have to be careful what you become a part of, and what you allow in your life and in your atmosphere and stuff like that. Remember to stand strong. Remember to do what you have to do and stuff like that. Despite the odds, you're going to be challenged, you're going to have to fight or whatever, and it's going to seem like don't you never win. I can honestly tell you it. When I say I went through years of never winning, like I'm like, as soon as I get something straight, here come this mess, and I can only imagine, because you have young men and women going through this, children going through this and stuff like that, where they feel they are never winning, and it brings about an oppression. It brings about so many different things, because that's what the enemy wants. The enemy wants you to claim things like depression, anxiety, all this different stuff. um you cannot imagine the anger I had when I went into court and these people told me to my face that they were giving my son a psychotropic, talking about they're dealing with his seizures. So they were giving my son a psychotropic on purpose, screaming they're dealing with his seizures. And I'm saying to myself, these people are really trying to destroy my family. But my son wasn't even in my care. He was in somebody else's care, and they hadn't undid this and stuff like that. It ticks me off. I was very upset, but then God was just like, don't even worry about it. It's in my hands. I'm gonna deal with it. And that's where I put it at. I was just like, God, I'm gonna put it in your hands, because to be totally honest, in my heart, I want to destroy some stuff, honestly. But in my blind state, it's preventing me from handling my business the way I want. So I have to be careful, and I will tell others that when you wake up to the fact that you're blind, be careful, guard yourself with everything. If you already have an entity, restart a new one, because they're gonna still try to play them same games. They're gonna still try to do the same thing. That all they want to do is rape, kill, destroy, take from you. You know, there's nothing about them that says prosperity. Nothing about them they don't never want you to have. They only want to keep you in a state where you're only existing. So you only existing, you're only surviving. You're not flourishing, you're not reaching your full potential. You're only surviving. And there's ways around it. I can honestly tell you there are ways around it. Try to find free programs or whatever the case may be. But even with some of them, they have attached certain terms, agreements, and all kinds of stuff to try to keep you bound, to hold you down, to keep you from having, to keep you from being where you're supposed to be. So you're gonna have to be careful. They will sit up there, and how you will know, you will sit up there and you will view people and see through some of the stuff that they do. Although you started a new entity and everything, you don't see everything. You don't see all that's going on behind the scenes. You don't see the bull behind the scenes. What you see is what's presented to you, the illumination, the vision that's presented to you. You're not seeing what goes on behind that illumination, what goes on behind what they did, or what goes on after that. And then also they're using certain devices or whatever to try to take you out of your mind, where you feel it's okay what they did, because you can't remember what they did. So that's a device that they use, your memory, trying to stop you from remembering the things that they did to you, the hurt that they caused you and your family, multiple times and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, see, ain't nothing wrong with them. They back to normal. They gonna do what we want them to do anyway. Get ye out from amongst your enemies. When God told Abraham to remove himself from his family, its motives and its reasons behind that. When God sits up there and God moves you and your family from around people, its motives and its reasons behind that. These people are unclean people. They're not for your people. They're not for you. They're not for your prosperity. They care nothing for our people. They care nothing for what we're about. But be careful, because now you got two groups. Make sure it's of God. Make sure it's of God and not a person coming, because a lot of these people have chosen their paths, and their paths is not geared in the way that it's supposed to be geared in, or the original intent in which that path was made. When I say the original intent, A lot of people are fellowshipping with groups and stuff like that, and in their fellowshipping with groups, this group originally and its original intention was of cleanliness, godliness, and holiness. Certain things you weren't allowed to do, you couldn't even get through the door unless you repented and bathed yourself from head to toe. You couldn't even walk through the door. It was a protocol to certain things, and had you went up against one house, the whole house would have went up against you, because you brought something into a clean space that should not have been brought there. This was a place of worship. Even though you were worshiping in different tongues, it was a place of worship, and they have gotten away from that. It was a sanctuary, and they have gotten away from that. And I remember saying this, that no place is safe at this point and stuff like that. And a lot of people looking at me like, what do you mean? Certain things are going on in holy places that should not be going on. People have lost sight of what real order is, and what it really is about, and when I sit up there and I say real order, I mean what God has called into place. A lot of people have lost sight of that. But despite your handicap, despite what's going on to you, despite your mental disadvantages, at this point, I only want to encourage you to continue to move forward. Make as many good decisions as you can make. What this means, if you know that you're fighting and you're in a state of handicap, that does not mean you run out and get a boyfriend so he can fix it, because he ain't gonna fix it, he only gonna make it worse. Or a girlfriend, she ain't fixing nothing, she's only making it worse. You already going through so many different situations. The fact that she's there now, Satan got a tool to use against you. So he sits up there, she probably knocked out on the floor in the room somewhere, and Satan now wants to play games with you through illumination. So she knocked out on the room floor somewhere, and then through illumination, Satan playing games, and you end up placed behind bars or whatever the case may be. Sometimes for doing nothing. Just be wise in your doing and make smart decisions. When you start seeing certain things take place, separate yourself. Yes, I love you. I love you enough to let you go, because I don't want to see you suffer because of me. I don't want to see certain things happen to you because of me. So I'm going to love you enough to let you go. I'm going to love you enough to tell you that we can't be in a relationship. I'm going to love you enough to tell you, like, look, I can't be with you, because right now I'm battling the Prince of Tide. I'm battling the battle of a lifetime. I'm battling the battle for my life, my seed's life, and their future. I can't be with you. And it's going to be the hardest thing you have to do, because, hey, I never said it would be easy. I didn't say it when come with a sacrifice. But I hope that you all are willing to take the sacrifice so that you may sit up there and return hope. Anyway, you guys take care. See you later, YouTube.